bedroom door slammed shut, the sound echoing through the hall. I could hear her uneven breathing from the other side, her hands likely shaking as she struggled to find the right words to justify her actions. But what do you say in a moment like this? There's no script for when you're caught, when the facade crumbles and the truth is laid bare. Sarah knew I had uncovered her secret, and I knew she had nowhere left to hide. It all began 2 weeks ago with something so trivial I barely noticed it at first. Sarah came home late, as she often did, with the usual excuse of a work meeting running overtime. I didn't think much of it. I had my own responsibilities to focus on. But when she hopped in the shower, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I'm not the type to snoop, never have been, but a message flashed on the screen before I could look away. Loved seeing you today. Let's do it again soon. My mind scrambled for an innocent explanation, but a nagging feeling told me there was none. I stayed quiet, choosing to watch and wait. Over the next few days, the pieces started falling into place. More frequent late nights, the way she guarded her phone, the forced smiles she gave me. I've never been one to jump to conclusions or assume the worst, but when something feels off, you just know. So I did what anyone might do. I looked for evidence. No private investigators or hacking apps were needed. I just paid closer attention. One evening, I told Sarah I had a work dinner and would be home late. Instead, I stayed put, turned off all the lights, parked my car a street over, and waited in the shadows of our living room. At 10 p.m., she texted me, staying late for drinks with the team. A lie. 20 minutes later, I saw her car pull up outside. She wasn't alone. From the window, I watched a man lean over and kiss her before she stepped out, smiling. It wasn't a friendly peck or a casual goodbye. It was the kiss of lovers. There I stood, in the darkness of our home, watching my wife return from a date, thinking I was clueless, out with colleagues somewhere. Now, standing outside our bedroom door, my fist clenched, my pulse pounding, I heard her stammer, "Please, let me explain." How pathetic it sounded, how absurd to hear someone beg for a chance to justify the undeniable. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal, it was her audacity to think she could keep deceiving me. The door remained shut, and Sarah didn't dare open it. I could see her shadow frozen under the gap, as if staying still might make me vanish. But I wasn't going anywhere, not this time, not after witnessing her with another man, coming home like nothing happened, kissing my cheek before washing away her guilt in the shower. My patience was gone, and I was done with this charade. "Open the door, Sarah," I said, my voice steady. Silence. I stepped closer, jaw tight. "If you don't, I will." There was a faint sound, maybe her hand on the knob, but the door didn't budge. "I don't want to fight, James," she said softly, like she was soothing a cornered animal. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because her nerve was astounding. "Fight? There's nothing to fight about, Sarah. Just tell me the truth. I want to hear it from you, what I already know." Another pause, then a sigh. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is, I shot back. Explain why I didn't see you kissing another man in your car. Convince me you haven't been lying to me for weeks. Go ahead, I'm waiting. The doorknob turned, and the door creaked open. Sarah stood there, eyes red, lips trembling. But there was no shame in her face, just fear of losing control. I didn't want you to find out like this, she whispered, as if that made a difference. Find out how, Sarah. When you got tired of him and came back acting like nothing happened, or when a friend spotted you too, and I became the laughingstock. She looked down, and for a moment, I thought she might say something honest. But no, it didn't mean anything, James. It was a mistake. I shook my head, anger rising like bile. Don't insult me. A mistake is forgetting to lock the door or leaving the stove on. What you did was a choice you made over and over. You chose to betray me, to lie to my face every day. That's not a mistake. It's a deliberate act. Sarah ran a hand over her face and stepped back, like she needed space to breathe. I didn't mean to hurt you, she murmured. I laughed again, a hollow sound. Well, you did a great job of it anyway. She swallowed hard, looking like she wanted to reach out, but stopping herself. James, please listen. No, you listen. I cut her off, done with her excuses. I'd been the man who supported her, believed in her, and this was my reward. I wasn't going to stay silent while she tried to justify her actions. Tell me the truth, Sarah. All of it. No excuses, no sugarcoating. She took a deep breath, crossing her arms like a shield. 3 months ago, I met Mark at work. At first, we just talked. He was just a colleague, nothing serious. But we started meeting outside the office, first with others, then alone. Nothing happened at first, but I liked him. She closed her eyes briefly, then nodded. Yes, and you kept seeing him, I said, my voice flat. Yes. I ran a hand over my face, a mix of rage and disgust churning inside me. Since when? She hesitated, then looked down. 2 months. 2 months. 8 weeks of coming home, sharing my bed, acting like everything was fine. Hearing the exact timeline made it all feel worse. And you think a sorry fixes this? I don't know, she whispered, looking genuinely lost for the first time. I shook my head and turned toward the door. Where are you going? She asked, her voice tinged with panic. Out. I need air. If I stay here any longer, I'll say things I'll regret. She didn't try to stop me. She had no ground to stand on. I wandered the streets of Boston aimlessly, anger mixing with disbelief. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How the woman I'd spent a decade with could betray me so casually, and still claim it meant nothing. Every step reminded me of moments I'd trusted her blindly, waiting at home while she was with him, oblivious to the fool I'd been. It hurt more than I could put into words, but it also fueled a fire in me. Knowing she'd played me like that, I ended up at a small bar, the kind with only a few late-night stragglers. I sat at the counter and ordered a whiskey, neat. The bartender poured it without a word, which I appreciated. I didn't want to talk, explain, or spill my story to a stranger pretending to care. I just wanted to figure out what came next. I knew I couldn't go home and pretend this never happened, but I wasn't sure I had the strength to face what followed: a divorce, the sting of betrayal, the task of rebuilding my life. After the first drink, I checked my phone. Sarah had texted, "James, please come home. Let's talk." As if talking could undo what she'd done, could erase the disgust, the rage, the pain. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. I ordered another whiskey and downed it faster than the first, the burn in my throat doing nothing to quiet the storm inside. I closed my eyes, trying to pinpoint when it all went wrong, when Sarah decided I wasn't enough. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find the moment. A voice pulled me from my thoughts. Rough night. A man, maybe in his early 40s, sat a few stools down, nursing a beer. I didn't feel like talking, but I didn't want to be rude either. "The worst," I said. He nodded, taking a sip. "If it helps, you're not the only one here who'd rather be somewhere else." I glanced at him, tired eyes, a couple days stubble. "What's your story?" I asked, not because I cared, but because it was easier than sitting in silence. "Waiting for my wife to kick me out," he said with a humorless laugh. "Or maybe I'll do it first. She didn't cheat, but I almost wish she had. Our marriage is just dying slowly. No fights, no drama, just two people who can't stand each other, but won't admit it." I didn't know what was worse, his quiet misery or my blatant betrayal. At least I knew exactly what had happened. "Mine did cheat," I said, setting my empty glass down harder than I meant to. He sighed. "That's rough, man, sorry." We sat in silence after that, each lost in our own mess. I checked my phone again. It was 2 a.m. I couldn't stay at the bar all night, but I wasn't ready to face Sarah either. "Figured out what you're gonna do?" the man asked as I stood to leave. "Not yet. When you do, hope you've got more guts than I do." I paid my tab and stepped into the cold night, the chill hitting me like a wake-up call. I walked back home slowly, my body resisting what waited for me. The living room light was still on when I got there. Sarah was on the couch, her face streaked with dried tears, her eyes distant. "I thought you weren't coming back," she said quietly. "I'm not sure why I did." She paused, then said, "I don't want to lose you, James." I laughed bitterly. The irony was too much. "You lost me the moment you chose him, Sarah." She hugged herself, like my words were blows she could block. "I know." I sat on the far end of the couch, the distance between us feeling like a chasm. "So, what now, Sarah? Because I'm out of ideas." She stared at the coffee table, as if the answer might be there. Neither of us spoke. There was no point in asking why anymore. I didn't care about her reasons, only the reality of what she'd done. She'd lied, betrayed me, looked me in the eye after being with him, and acted like everything was fine. There was no going back. "James," she whispered, like saying my name was a plea. "Tell me, Sarah. No more games. I don't want to lose you. I laughed again, the absurdity of it stinging. If you didn't want to lose me, maybe you shouldn't have been with someone else. She closed her eyes, my bluntness hitting her. But I didn't care how she felt anymore. I don't know why I did it. Yes, you do. She looked up, eyes red, but there was no remorse, just fear. I don't want us to hate each other. I don't hate you, Sarah, but I don't love you either. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that comes when everything's been said, but no one wants to admit it's over. She bit her lip, hands clasped, trying to hold onto something already gone. I'd made my choice. I'm leaving tomorrow, I said. Her eyes widened, panic setting in. No, please. There's nothing left to say, Sarah. You want me to stay so we can pretend this didn't happen, so I can live with the image of you with him. No thanks. She shook her head, desperate. It wasn't like that. It wasn't just physical. I don't care what it was. It doesn't change anything. I stood, exhausted in a way I'd never felt before. I was done with the conversation, the house, her face, all of it. I'm sleeping in the guest room. I'll pack my things in the morning and go. She jumped up, grabbing my arm. You can't just leave. I can, and I will. She tried to hug me, but I stepped back. James, please, don't make this harder. I walked to the guest room, locked the door, not because I thought she'd barge in, but because I didn't want to hear her beg, and collapsed on the bed. I knew sleep wouldn't come. My life had just imploded, and all I could do was wait for morning to start picking up the pieces. I was up before the alarm, not because I'd slept well, but because my mind wouldn't stop racing. I stared at the ceiling for hours, wondering if Sarah was awake, crying, or sleeping like nothing had happened. I didn't care. I wasn't going to waste another second trying to understand her betrayal. I got up quietly, splashed water on my face, and started packing a suitcase in the guest room, just the essentials. The rest could wait. I crept to our bedroom. The door was ajar, no sound from inside. I pushed it open. Sarah was on the bed, awake, staring at the ceiling, eyes swollen. She didn't move when she saw me, just lay there, defeated. I didn't say a word, didn't look at her longer than necessary. I grabbed clothes from the closet, folding them quickly and stuffing them into the suitcase. James, she said. I kept packing. Please, can we talk? There's nothing to talk about. She sat up, desperate. You can't just walk out like this. I can. You can't throw everything away over one thing. I zipped the suitcase and met her eyes. I didn't throw anything away, Sarah. You did. She opened her mouth, but said nothing. She knew I was right. It wasn't just physical, she said weakly. Doesn't matter. It still means you don't love me. She stood, hands shaking, fear in her eyes. I don't want to lose you. You lost me a long time ago. She reached for my arm, but I pulled away. You can't hate me for this. I don't hate you, but I won't forgive you either, she asked. What if it was you? I stared, incredulous. If it was me, you'd have kicked me out the night you found out. She had no response. I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the door. As I reached for the handle, she called, Where are you going? Somewhere you're not. I walked out without looking back. Outside, suitcase in hand, I had no plan. I didn't know where I'd stay or what I'd do next. Only that I couldn't spend another minute in that house, breathing the same air as her lies. I tossed the suitcase in my car and sat there, hands on the wheel, feeling empty and furious. Last night, I'd convinced myself leaving was the only option. But now, actually gone, the weight of it hit differently. A decade of my life, gone in days. For the first time, I had no direction. I drove aimlessly, ending up at a no-frills hotel. I checked in, paid for 2 nights, and collapsed on the bed in a small, sterile room. It was exactly what I needed, nothing to remind me of her. My phone showed missed calls and texts from Sarah. I didn't read them. I blocked her number and set the phone aside. I wasn't going to let her keep haunting me. Lying there, memories crept in despite my efforts to shut them out. The first time she said she loved me, the nights we planned our future, the moments I thought we were unbreakable. Now I was in a hotel alone, while she was probably still in our bed, the same one she'd shared with him. The thought reignited my anger. I couldn't stay still, replaying it all. I grabbed my shoes and left, ending up at another bar. Not the same one, but close enough. I ordered a whiskey and drank it fast, then another. A woman across the bar caught my eye, her expression mirroring mine. Life had kicked her too. I didn't engage. I wasn't in the mood to talk, let alone pretend I cared about someone else's story. For a moment, I considered losing myself in a stranger's company, a fleeting distraction from the pain. But I was too drained, too hollow. I paid and left, the city buzzing around me, oblivious to my world's collapse. Back at the hotel, I crashed on the bed, knowing sleep would evade me again. I had no plan, no idea how to rebuild what Sarah had shattered. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going back, no matter how much she begged. Days passed, and while I still didn't know what lay ahead, one truth solidified: Sarah was history. I knew it when my lawyer sent the divorce papers. Reading them, I felt no anger, no sadness, just relief. Not joy, but close. I didn't tell Sarah the process had started, not out of cruelty, but because I owed her nothing. She'd find out when the papers arrived, and by then, I'd be long gone. I returned to the house once to grab the last of my things. Sarah was out, which was better. The place looked untouched, like it was waiting for me to come back. But there was nothing normal about it. I took what I needed and left the keys on the table. On impulse, I picked up her phone, still on the counter, and unlocked it with the code I knew. I wasn't looking for new evidence, just closure. In her contacts, there he was, under a fake name. Their messages showed they were still in touch, less frequent, but enough to prove she hadn't stopped. I smiled, not out of happiness, but grim satisfaction. It confirmed what I knew. She didn't miss me. She just hated getting caught. I deleted my number from her phone, not because it mattered, but because it felt like erasing myself from her world. Then I left without a backward glance. The weeks that followed were a blur of freedom and uncertainty. I rented a small apartment, a place where no one knew me, where I could avoid unsolicited advice. I threw myself into work, taking on projects I'd have passed up before, just to avoid an empty home. The ache of living without a partner faded faster than I expected. One day, while working, I got a text from an unknown number, Sarah, asking to meet, to close things properly. I didn't reply. I didn't need her closure. Our story ended the night she begged in the living room, tears in her eyes, empty words on her lips. I deleted the message and moved on. Sarah no longer had a hold on me. It was over.